Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 31, Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities, text number 18 onwards. Yene drashim gatimaso dashamasya isha santrahita purudayin bhavantrishena svenev tushyatu kriten sadinanatha konam tat prativinan jalimasya kureha. My dear Lord, by your causeless mercy, I am awakened to consciousness, although I am only 10 months old. For this causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the friend of all fallen souls, there is no way to express my gratitude but to pray with folded hands. So sometimes people get bewildered. How come the baby here is 10 months old, and generally we have seen pregnancy going for 9 months. But this 10 months means the lunar cycle, not the solar month. There's 10 lunar months. So then it all come together. So the child, the baby in the womb is praying that there is no way to express my gratitude but to pray with folded hands. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, intelligence and forgetfulness are both supplied by the Supersoul, sitting within the individual soul, within the body. When he sees that a conditioned soul is very serious about getting out of the clutches of material influence, the Supreme Lord gives intelligence internally as Supersoul and externally as a spiritual master, or as an incarnation of the personality of Godhead himself. He helps by speaking instructions such as Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is always seeking the opportunity to reclaim the fallen souls to his abode, the kingdom of God. We should always feel very much obliged to the personality of Godhead, for he is always anxious to bring us into the happy condition of eternal life. There is no sufficient means to repay the personality of Godhead for his act of benediction. Therefore, we can simply feel gratitude and pray to the Lord with folded hands. This prayer of the child in the womb may be questioned by some atheistic people. How can a child pray in such a nice way in the womb of his mother? Everything is possible by the grace of the Lord. The child is put into such a precarious condition externally, but internally he is the same, and the Lord is there. By the transcendental energy of the Lord, everything is possible. And moreover, it's not every child can pray like that. Some fortunate soul. And historically, it's seen that the child in the womb, they can gather knowledge, just like Prahlad Maharaj. He was in the womb of his mother, Kayadhu, when Narad Muni took her to the ashram. Narad Muni took Mother Kayadhu to the ashram, and she was pregnant, and Hiranyakashipu had gone to do his tapasya. So Narad Muni gave Kayadhu all the Bhagavad philosophy. He taught her. And in the process, Prahlad Maharaj, while in the womb of his mother, he became a devotee. Or he was already a devotee, but he got all the knowledge from Narad Muni in that way. So that is why when he came out, when Hiranyakashipu finished his tapasya, he got all the benedictions, he came back to his palace, and Kayadhu was brought back, and Prahlad Maharaj took birth. So Prahlad Maharaj was already a devotee, already a Mahabhagavat. So nothing to be so alarmed about. Of course, atheists will never believe in anything, so you cannot argue with them. But even Abhimanyu, he learned how to break in Chakravyuh While Arjun was teaching this to Subhadra, Subhadra Maharani, she went off to sleep when Arjun was explaining how to get out of Chakravyuh. So that part Abhimanyu never learnt, but he learned how to go in. So there have been, Parikshit Maharaj himself, he was protected by the Lord, by Lord Krishna himself, while he was in the womb of his mother Uttara. And he never forgot the person who saw in the womb. That's why when he came out, he was always looking for the person whom he saw in the womb. And he was always testing, is that the right person? That's why his name was Parikshit. He was always doing Pariksha. So many incidents are there when the baby had learned a lot in the womb of his mother. Means the baby is conscious, baby is very much active. So if he can learn, he can also pray. Of course, it's only for some fortunate souls, or very rare souls, but it can happen. And Prabhupada says, by the transcendental energy of the Lord, everything is possible. Pasyatyayam dhishnaya nanu saptavagre sharirake dam sharire parasvadehe yasta srishtis yasam tamaham purusham puranam pashye bahir hriday chatyamya pratitam. The living entity in another type of body sees only by instinct. He knows only the agreeable and disagreeable sense perceptions of that particular body. But I have a body in which I can control my senses and can understand my destination. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whom I have been blessed with this body and by whose grace I can see Him within and without. The evolutionary process of different types of bodies is something like that of a fructifying flower. Just as there are different stages in the growth of a flower, the bud stage, the blooming stage, and the full-fledged grown-up stage of aroma and beauty, similarly, there are 8,400,000 species of bodies in gradual evolution. And there is systematic progress from the lower species of life to the higher. The human form of life is supposed to be the highest, for it offers consciousness for getting out of clutches of birth and death. The fortunate child in the womb of his mother realizes his superior position and is thereby distinguished from other bodies. Animals in bodies lower than that of the human being are conscious only as far as their bodily distress and happiness are concerned. They cannot think of more than the bodily necessities of life: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But in the human form of life, by the grace of God, the consciousness is so developed that a man can evaluate his exceptional position and thus realize the self and the Supreme Lord. So this fortunate child in the womb of his mother is realizing his superior position because he is in a human form of life, and he understands his consciousness is better than the other forms, and so he's saying he's being very grateful to the Lord, and he's paying his obeisances or is praying to the Lord. The word Dhamma Shariri means that we have a body in which we can control the senses and the mind. The complication of materialistic life is due to an uncontrolled mind and uncontrolled senses. One should feel grateful to the Supreme Personality of God for having obtained such a nice human form of body, and one should properly utilize it. The distinction between an animal and a man is that the animal cannot control himself and has no sense of decency, whereas a human being has a sense of decency and can control himself. If this controlling power is not exhibited by the human being, then he is no better than an animal. By controlling the senses or by the process of yoga regulation, one can understand the position of his self, the supersoul, the world, and the interrelation. Everything is possible by controlling the senses. Otherwise, we are no better than animals. So the living entity inside the womb is praying that I have a body in which I can control my senses and can understand my destination. Means this is a advantage of human form of life. But if we are not taking advantage of this aspect of human form of life, then we are no better than animals. And in fact, if we live a life like an animal, then the next life will be of an animal. That's for sure. If we only engage in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and not only that, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, where he explains divine and demoniac qualities. Tanaham dvishataha kruram samsare nushu naradhama. So those who are envious of others, generally animals are envious because they don't have any higher consciousness. But human beings, those who are envious of others, tanaham dvishata kruram samsareshu naradhama. They are the lowest of the mankind. Kshipami ajasram ashubham ashri veshu yonishu. So I put them perpetually into the lower species of life. Asurishu eva yonishu. Whether in the demoniac or whether in the lower species of life. Because for those who become envious of others, even if they are human beings, and even if they are very highly cultured, so-called cultured, knowledgeable, educated people, but if we are envious, then this is what Krishna is going to do. So got to be very careful. Real self-realization by means of controlling the senses is explained herein. One should try to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one's own self also. To think oneself the same as the Supreme is not self-realization. Here it is clearly explained that the Supreme Lord is Anadi or Puran, and he has no other cause. The living entity is born of the Supreme Godhead as part and parcel. It is confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Nadi Radha Govinda. The Supreme Person has no cause. He is unborn, but the living entity is born of him. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vansha, both the living entity and the Supreme Lord are unborn. But it has to be understood that the supreme cause of the part and parcel is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So both are unborn, both are Sanatan, but the Supreme Lord is supreme. He is the cause of all the other unborns. Not just a cause, he also maintains them. Vedanta Sutra confirms this also. Janmadhyasya Sayata. The absolute truth is the original source of everyone's birth. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. I am the source of birth of everything, including Brahma and Lord Shiva and the living entities. This is self-realization. One should know that he is under the control of the Supreme Lord and not think that he is fully independent. Otherwise, why should he be put into conditional life? The Supreme Lord never comes into conditional life. He is always independent. But we are into materially conditioned life. So means we are not fully independent, means we are not the Supreme Lord. And we'll never become one. Text 20. Soham vasannapi vibhav bahu dukkhavacham garvanna nir jigmishe bahiranda kupe yatro prayatum upsarpati deva maya mithya matir yadanu samsriti chakram etat. Therefore, my Lord, although I am living in a terrible condition, I do not wish to depart from my mother's abdomen, to fall again into the blind well of materialistic life. Your external energy called Deva Maya at once captures a newly born child and immediately false identification, which is the beginning of the cycle of continual birth and death begins. So he's saying, I don't want to get out of this mother's abdomen because as soon as I come out, I'll be captured by your Deva Maya. And this was also the concern of Shukdev Goswami. So that's why 16 years he remained in the womb of his mother. And this was his concern that as soon as he comes out, he will fall into Maya. Although he is a liberated soul, Shukdev Goswami. Even Vedvyas told him, you will not fall in Maya, don't worry, come out. But he said no. But when Krishna came and he convinced him, and Krishna gave him the assurance, okay, you will not fall into Maya. That's when he came out, and immediately he left for the forest. He said, if I stay here in the ashram, I'll get captured. As long as a child is within the womb of his mother, he is in a very precarious and horrible condition of life. But the benefit is that he revives pure consciousness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord and prays for deliverance. But once he is outside the abdomen, when a child is born, Maya or the illusory energy is so strong that he is immediately overpowered into considering his body to be his self. So that is the beginning of our ignorance. Maya means illusion or that which is actually not. In the material world, everyone is identifying with this body. This false egoistic consciousness of I am this body at once develops after the child comes out of the womb. The mother and other relatives are awaiting the child, and as soon as he is born, the mother feeds him and everyone takes care of him. The living entity soon forgets his position and becomes entangled in worldly relationships. The entire material existence is entanglement in this worldly conception of life. Real knowledge means to develop the consciousness of I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul, an eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Real knowledge entails renunciation or non-acceptance of this body as a self. So this is the real knowledge that I'm not this body. But as soon as a child comes out of the womb of the mother takes care of him, all the relatives are there to take care of him, and then people are playing with the baby, and the baby becomes actually the controller of the whole household. So then he is pretty much identifying himself with the body. By the influence of Maya, the external energy, one forgets everything just after birth. Therefore, the child is praying that he prefers to remain within the womb rather than come out. It is said that Shukdev Goswami, on this consideration, remained for 16 years within the womb of his mother. He did not want to be entangled in false bodily identification. After cultivating such knowledge within the womb of his mother, he came out at the end of 16 years and immediately left home so that he might not be captured by the influence of Maya. The influence of Maya is also explained in Bhagavad Gita as insurmountable. But insurmountable Maya can be overcome simply by Krishna consciousness. That's also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Mame vya prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Whoever surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna can get out of this false conception of life. By the influence of Maya only, one forgets his eternal relationship with Krishna and identifies himself with his body and by the byproducts of the body, namely wives, children, society, friendship, and love. Thus he becomes a victim of the influence of Maya, and his materialistic life of continued birth and death becomes still more stringent. So this is how Maya works. Like it covers and it pulls us down in the material world. Covers our consciousness, covers our intelligence. And we forget who we are. That we are a divine, transcendental soul. We identify ourselves with the body, we relate ourselves with the byproducts of this body, and that's it. And then life after life after life after life, we remain in this consciousness. Tasmadaham vigat viklava udrishya atmanamashrutamasa suhridatmaneva bhuyo yatha vyasanam etad anekarandran mame bhavishyadupasitat vishnupada. Therefore, without being agitated anymore, I shall deliver myself from the darkness of essence with the help of my friend, clear consciousness. Simply by keeping the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu in my mind, I shall be saved from entering into the womb of many mothers for repeated birth and death. The miseries of material existence begin from the very day when the spirit soul takes shelter in the ovum and sperm of the mother and father. They continue after he is born from the womb, and then they are further prolonged. We do not know where the suffering ends. It does not end, however, by one's changing his body. The change of body is taking place at every moment, but that does not mean that we are improving from the fetal condition of life to a more comfortable position. The best thing is therefore to develop Krishna consciousness. It is stated, Upsadita Vishnu Pada. This means realization of Krishna consciousness. One who is intelligent by the grace of the Lord and develops Krishna consciousness is successful in his life, because simply by keeping himself in Krishna consciousness, he will be saved from the repetition of birth and death. So this is our only way out, by remaining Krishna conscious. We can only remain Krishna conscious if we are Krishna conscious. So first we have to develop that bhakti, that realization. So for that, we've been given this human form of life, and the only purpose of this life is to develop that consciousness. The child prays that it is better to remain within the womb of darkness and be constantly absorbed in Krishna consciousness than to get out and again fall a victim to the illusory energy. The illusory energy acts within the abdomen as well as outside the abdomen. But the trick is that one should remain Krishna conscious, and then the effect of such a horrible condition cannot act unfavorably upon him. So even within the womb, he can fall into Maya, because Maya is everywhere. Just like if you remember when we were reading the story of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha and their mother Diti. So as soon as these two boys were in her womb, the whole universe became dark. And there were all sorts of inauspicious signs all over the universe. And Diti kept these boys, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, in her womb for 100 years. Because she didn't want them to come out and start creating the disruption. But they were destined to do so. So they came out and they made the whole mess all over the universe. So it depends. I mean, even within the womb of the mother, the child, his consciousness can get affected also. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that one's intelligence is his friend, and the same intelligence can also be his enemy. Here also the same idea is repeated. Suhridatmaneva, friendly intelligence. Absorption of intelligence in the personal service of Lord Krishna and full consciousness of Krishna always are the path of self-realization and liberation. Without being unnecessarily agitated, if we take to the process of Krishna consciousness by constantly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The cycle of birth and death can be stopped for good. So this is our Sanjeevani, this chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. It may be questioned herein how the child can be fully Krishna conscious within the womb of the mother without any paraphernalia with which to execute Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says, it is not necessary to arrange for paraphernalia to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. The child wants to remain within the abdomen of his mother and at the same time wants to become free from the clutches of Maya. One does not need any material arrangement to cultivate Krishna consciousness. One can cultivate Krishna consciousness anywhere and everywhere, provided he can always think of Krishna. The Maha Mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare can be chanted even within the abdomen of one's mother. One can chant while sleeping, while working, while imprisoned in the womb, or while outside. This Krishna consciousness cannot be checked in any circumstance. The conclusion of the child's prayer is, let me remain in this condition. Although it's very miserable, it is better not to fall a victim to Maya again by going outside. So very nicely Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness does not depend upon any artificial arrangement or any external arrangement. It depends on the position of the consciousness, position of our heart. So even without any paraphernalia, without any other arrangement, we can still chant the holy names. Means many times devotees get a service in the temple or some other way, service to the Lord. So Krishna consciousness or bhakti does not depend upon that service. Yes, it helps. I'm not saying it does not help at all. It helps. Association of devotees and personal service, it helps. But our bhakti does not depend upon that. We can sit at any place and chant. We can be in any situation, like Prabhupada said, while sleeping, while working, while imprisoned in the womb or while outside, we can chant. So idea is to develop this attachment for chanting, the love for chanting. No matter where we are, we can chant and we can become great. We can become or we can remain Krishna conscious. Idea is to become Krishna conscious. Not to be attached to any service or any person or any group or anything else. Just chant. So it's very important. Prabhupada mentioned this thing in the last paragraph here. So one can cultivate Krishna consciousness anywhere and everywhere, provided he can always think of Krishna. Like there were devotees in Russia, in the beginning days of the movement in Russia, they were put into prison houses for chanting and for reading and distributing this literature. And in the prison house, there's a wonderful book, Salted Bread. If you can get hold of it, you can read it. It's a wonderful book. It's based on Russian devotees and their experience in the prison house. And the government, KGB, kept them in. Some of them were kept in Siberia, the coldest place on earth, in the prison house. And they would the guards would give these devotees meat to eat, and they said, no, we're not going to eat. Then they would give them dry bread to eat. And the devotees would make balls out of the dry bread, and then they had a thread, somehow they found a thread, and then they make the beads, the balls for the beads, and they strung the beads on the thread, and they would use that for chanting. They didn't have Tulsi beautiful Tulsi beads from Radhakund or some other place. They didn't have. Even in the beginning days of ISKCON, in America, devotees didn't have Tulsi beads. They were just stringing some plastic beads and chanting on them. Tulsi beads are wonderful if we can chant on them. But if it is not available, chanting should not stop. It's the chanting that's going to take us back to God. Not whether Tulsi beads or whether we are wearing matka silk dhoti or the beautiful silk saris or this or that. No. It's just the chanting to remain Krishna conscious. And that one can do even without beads, one can chant. Who's saying beads are important? If there is no access to beads, one can chant without beads. Chanting is important. And chanting with attentiveness, chanting with feeling, chanting with love and devotion. Chanting is a prayerful mode. That is more important. Full absorption. So let us try to chant that way. And we have to understand, okay, this soul is within the womb of his mother and is praying there. Let us understand we are also within the womb of the universal body. The womb here of mother is made of 7 coverings. This atmosphere, the egg shell is also made of 7 coverings. So we can understand we are still in the womb. We are not out yet. Of course, this womb is a little too big. We can move around, and the child within that mother's womb cannot move around. But we all are in a precarious condition, especially with this coronavirus thing going on. We all are in precarious condition. So only thing that's going to help us is nice, attentive, absorbed chanting. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, so you all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare
Hare Krishna.